Welcome back to Game Plan the Podcast. I'm your host, Davis Cole, and joined as always by our host, Wico.
Yo.
Today's guest is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu athlete. He recently got promoted to black belt. Please welcome to the podcast, Grayson Henley.
We're all good. Let's get some claps.
Wait, at the same time? Or?
No, you can just do yours.
Single.
I always roast him because he's so jacked. He can't bring his hands up to do it. And then when we had Tyson on, I saw like the exact same thing where like he's so jacked that like he had to like, it was tough for him. And it's refreshing to have another mobile long boy in here that can actually
another lanky fuck.
Well,
Yeah.
dude, that reminds me, like, I forget what technique it was, but I think Matt Coper was trying to get you to do a technique from like a stand-up guillotine thing. And you're like, but my arms don't go that way.
Yeah.
And we're like, you could do it. You're like, nah.
I think it was
like
the elbow
put
pass,
a hand.
right?
No. It was kind of stand-up
Post.
elbow pass.
Right,
Yeah.
like the getting out of a bottom front headlock and getting to their tricep.
Yeah, he couldn't grab their tricep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And like for us, that's like I can't fathom
No way.
with
So, yeah.
it being hard to get that grip. Yeah. Well, something that I thought was cool was your black belt speech. So I was thinking you could do like much longer form because I think it'd be cool for our listeners to hear about like you're starting in jiu-jitsu as a kid and like I guess you and your dad got into it, then you got into it, something like that.
Yeah, he
and
started
just going
like
through all that.
He started like August. I forget the year, I guess. And like 15, we've been training 15 going on 16 years, right? So 2011 maybe. I don't know, whatever. 2010, something like that. He started in August. I started in like November. So he trained for a couple months. I was doing Kung Fu before that. And he met like one of his best buddies at my Kung Fu gym. He was like a Kung Fu black belt. Can't talk. He was a Kung Fu black belt. And him and my dad would watch all the UFC events and talk about training, but not really do it. And then Christmas comes, my mom's like, you guys are going to train. Got you both a month membership, go train, or maybe she coordinated with his wife, something. So they go train. And I was already doing Kung Fu. My dad didn't want to pay more money for me to do something else, But I remember like early on, way before I even trained, like probably that same month he started, in my living room, he's like, Grayson, let me show you this move I learned today in jiu-jitsu class. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking some kata, And it's like, he's top side control. He pulls the frame on the hip, goes kesagatame just to clear the frame, back to side control. And he's drilling it on like me, like 8 years old in the living room. And I'm like, what is the point of fucking jiu-jitsu? Like, you're doing little hip switch things. What? But still, it was cool. And a couple months later, I started training. It was pretty cool, yeah.
When did you start Kung Fu? Like, were you doing it for a long time before
A
jiu-jitsu?
couple years even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like soccer at 6, Kung Fu maybe 7, and then jiu-jitsu 9. Jiu-jitsu was like 2 months after I turned 9, I think.
Was this in Bastrop?
No, I was living in Austin at this point. So we started training at Mario Esfia in North Austin. Mario's like, I don't think he has any like official like world title, Pans title, but he like closed out like him and a teammate. So like he, in modern days, you'd be like, oh yeah, Leandro won that year Worlds when maybe he closed out with Buchecha or whatever, So like that's what Mario had done. He like closed out with teammates like Roberto Travin, Comprito, these like legends. And I forget where I was going with that, but
Yeah, I was just
in Austin. That was
curious, like where you guys were at.
Why Kung Fu?
Just something to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
As a kid, my parents just wanted me to do some sport.
Something to get your energy out and
Exactly,
run
yeah.
around. Yeah, so you can sleep and shit.
But it was good. I mean, I was a very since a kid, a very rule oriented person,
Cool.
So going to Kung Fu and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. You got to do things the right way and you get, hey, you're doing it wrong. If you're doing it wrong, and you can fix it. And it just fit my brain perfectly.
You needed like the structure.
And the thing I didn't like about Kung Fu though is I would go to these competitions. I always wanted to be a competitor, and I would go and I would lose because I would hit people, and you couldn't hit people in Kung Fu in the competitions, but you couldn't not hit them enough. You had to almost hit them in the right range to get a point. You know what I mean? And so I would go and I would kick these kids in the face, and I'd be like, dude, And
I did not know that.
Yeah. It was whack.
What is the uniform when you compete? And like, do you have a uniform at class?
In Kung Fu,
Yeah.
it's just like a thin gi, and you like tie the.
So it's kind of
ends
like
together.
a Taekwondo karate style gi that's like that flimsy tie on the side.
Yeah, it was
And you have a
Shaolin
belt?
Do Kung Fu. Yeah, I got to a junior black belt, so I'm technically a double black.
Let's go.
So did you, like you're saying, you stopped doing the Kung Fu once you and your dad started training at Mario's?
Kinda. So like, I don't know. My one thing that helped me with jiu-jitsu even was my dad never pushed me to be like, you got to train, you got to compete. It was very much like, if you want to quit ever, you can quit, but just understand how big a deal quitting is. You know what I mean? Like, don't just quit because you're bored. Like, think it through, make a decision, tell me, we'll consider it, and in a few weeks, if you feel the same way, we'll quit, you know? But because of that, and it was my choice, I was like, I can't quit. I don't want to be a quitter. So, like, I did Kung Fu like a year, maybe plus, after doing Jiu-Jitsu. And I was over it the day I started Jiu-Jitsu, you know?
Oh, really?
But I could do it and Jiu-Jitsu the same day, so I didn't have to choose one or the other. And I was like, all right. And I think maybe my dad didn't pay for me to train Jiu-Jitsu because I was the first student at Mario's new gym when he opened.
Damn.
So I think it was just kind of like extra. But yeah, I didn't quit for like a whole year. And then eventually I was like, I really don't want to do Kung Fu anymore. And my parents, thank God.
They were sick of taking you to 2 places in one day.
Yeah. And the Kung Fu guys were like hating on jiu-jitsu. Like, that's not a real martial art. And no jiu-jitsu guy cared at all about the Kung Fu, you know?
Yeah.
But the insecure Kung Fu guys are like, no, jiu-jitsu, devil art, you know? Like,
Do you remember any of like the techniques? Is there anything that you got from it that's like at all applicable? I mean, you said you were kicking people. Is there kicks in Kung Fu?
yeah, I mean, I don't, it's probably a very Americanized version of it, you know? I mean, I think it's kind of just like any, I'm probably blasphemy here for some martial artists, but I think it's kind of like any karate, taekwondo thing where it's just kind of like, go learn katas and get disciplined. But
So would you guys be like spread out on the mat, like all kind of
horse
repeating?
stance and,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do think those things are helpful though. Like a horse stance is like, we were talking about base last week. It's
Discipline,
like,
yeah.
you know, you have a good base, right? You probably get some coordination and strength and that kind of stuff.
We also did like nunchucks and like bow swords or bow staffs and
That's
we did
sick.
swords too. Yeah, but
I've always loved nunchucks.
yeah.
I got super into playing around with the Hyperfly nunchucks when Hyperfly released some
I never
nunchucks.
saw those.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I still have them somewhere
Are
around.
they like the super padded ones?
Yeah. So they're just foam padded, but like
Cool.
I had like a little deal with Hyperfly back in like 2013, 2014, where if I like competed, they would give me like gift card value to their online store. And so through that time, I picked up at least like 2 pairs of the nunchucks. And I was talking about training with my brothers and like getting into the garage after training sessions, like late at night.
Cold Squad.
And it would be me in the garage doing nunchucks after jiu-jitsu
Sick.
class at like 11 p.m., just like having fun with it. Because I had seen like the Diaz brothers and I was super inspired by them, right? They did
How
like all
old
the
were you at this time?
teenager. And so like the Diaz brothers would be doing like the triathlon stuff. And I'd see like YouTube videos of them like being on their cycles. And then they'd go like fight some redneck that like yelled at them while they were riding down the road, you know? And then just part of their content, they'd be hanging out at Whole Foods, like chirping at people. And then within all that kind of stuff, I saw them just like messing around with nunchucks. And I was like, I want to be like a Diaz brother.
That's how I become an elite athlete.
Yeah. So I was like, and it's just fun too. You know, I've always been interested in like Kung Fu movies and just kind of like that nerdy side of the martial arts world. Cause it is sick. Like I grew up like, I don't know what year it came out. I think like 2001, but like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type stuff, you know, and
Never even seen it, bro.
like even the Matrix, right? Like there was like
yeah.
like Kung Fu scene, right? When they're in like the training program and he's like doing Kung Fu against Morpheus and stuff. So like when I was a kid, I feel like Kung Fu movies were still more big before there was like jujitsu in film, right? So I thought, again, didn't really know much about the UFC at that time. So I just thought like that was real stuff.
I feel like there aren't any really good jiu-jitsu films out right now, though, right?
Like
Or,
straight jujitsu films,
Yeah.
like there were or are used to be
like
kung fu
Karate
movies.
Kid or
No,
Yeah,
there's definitely
so-
not like
There's a triangle in one of the diehards.
yeah,
wanna
but it's
say.
not like
John
a kung
Wick
fu
has
movie.
some-
And that's what
Yeah.
I was gonna say is John Wick, but that when you watch it as a jujitsu guy, it's like very judo heavy, right?
true.
So there's a lot more like
But
clear
anytime he
judo
does
stuff.
judo, I'm like, that's jujitsu. Let's
Yeah,
go.
for sure, and it is, and there's plenty, I'm sure.
But also in the sense like the analogy of like there aren't jujitsu movies like there are or were kung fu movies. There still aren't, because that was like a straight up genre
For sure.
of kung fu movie.
But it
ain't no jujitsu genre.
I think
what I mean?
it's more visually striking. Like to watch two people standing and doing that stuff, I think it looks better on film than like
Kung fu?
Kasich Tommy and side control.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
don't know, bro.
You could
Sumigeshi, it
choreograph-
goes like this, you said.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Bro,
true.
imagine Andrew in an action movie.
I've been saying that for years. I wish that he was like in Hollywood as a
Yeah.
stuntman, because he is so good at that kind of stuff. And when he like makes shorts and stuff and it's just drilling a move, like, hey, can you hit that again? He will send it so hard, and he
sure,
could
yeah.
definitely do some really cool fight choreography.
Bro, he could choreograph a whole scene. Not even plan it. Just go do a scene and
Yeah.
make like the craziest fight scene ever. Backflip.
And then it'd
crazy
be like,
jiu-jitsu
okay,
stuff.
we need another shot. He's like,
completely
oh,
different.
well, it'll be different. Yeah.
Do you guys ever like cringe? Because I watch
Yes.
a lot of movies
At myself every day.
at like the sleeper holds
Oh yeah, well,
of
they
like
do it,
assassins. Yes, they
yeah.
do the elbow grab sleeper hold, and it's like there's all this space. And like I'm sure there's a small part of Hollywood that doesn't want to like put real choke pressure on an
think that's
actor,
what it is,
right? So
yeah.
they like have to be cautious. But it drives
But you
me
can still
nuts.
you could get it in.
this.
I think what it is too is total conspiracy theory. I don't think they want the public to just know how to actually choke people. Like I think if some, crazy high school kids watching a movie, they're doing this, and he goes and does that, it's not going to hurt anyone. But if they're showing like proper
Good
technique on
technique.
everything, yeah.
That's actually a pretty good conspiracy theory. I like that a lot. My take is the
Nice.
opposite.
Hell yeah.
Is that I thought it was just that you just got a bunch of film crew people, producers, directors, all the way down to the set designers and that kind of stuff. And I just don't think that there's like an expert that can like actually chime in and say, hey, no, that is totally not how you put someone out. Because you're talking about them being afraid of people seeing it the real way. I've seen plenty of TV shows and movies where they do like a piano wire.
Yeah, true.
So like strangulation is really common in Hollywood. It's just like when they do it hand to hand, it's always like so sloppy, and it's like, come on, you guys could do better. But I
Buy my instructional.
yeah,
Come on.
and I'm sure that like the percent of people that watch that kind of stuff and have a critique of it is like 0.001% of their viewers. So it's not like their audience really cares.
but it's
like
100% of jiu-jitsu. people.
yeah, as a
Like,
jiu-jitsu
yeah.
guy, I watched that and I'm like, come on, you guys, this is ridiculous.
Yo, I really love the I'm sure y'all have seen them, but I really love the people that break down like animals doing jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
Like comedically.
But sometimes serious, sometimes comedically. You know what I mean?
I don't know
But
what you
I think it's really sick. No, of like bears fighting.
But
You
they
know?
do jiu-jitsu breakdown on it.
Yeah, like straight up.
I totally get with what you're talking about, because
Yeah.
I've watched all sorts of Animal Planet type shows, and I've seen animals kind of fighting out in nature too.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy seeing like fight principles. They use the same stuff.
I mean, you see kittens that are like months old, who are doing like good
Guard
technique.
retention
Yeah.
and stuff right there on their
Yeah.
back.
No, for
And then
real.
you can tell like the
I love
different
that
animal
shit.
styles and stuff. Like cats, I think, are probably one of the coolest to watch because it looks a lot like grappling, right? And they always like go for the back.
And they're spazzy
you know?
too. It's not like old man gi grappling. It's like
white belt
new,
death
yeah,
match
yeah.
grappling. Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that there's somewhere within that like when it's, human to another animal, animal to animal, like they don't do martial arts, obviously, but they kill each other all the time. So it's like kind of the same thing,
No, for
sure.
sure.
And that's where you see like when people, I think what you're talking about, where they're like, oh, the honey badger did a berimbolo. And it's like, yeah, it kind of looks like a berimbolo.
No, for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah, but he's not thinking it through. His body's just doing the move.
I
But
guess-
that's a lot of jiu-jitsu people go off instincts too.
I guess an example, a more specific example I'm saying of like human to animal and then like animal to animal is like that jumping over the back and rolling through, because on the Who's Next TV show, they put Andrew up against the bull, right?
yeah.
And he puts that thing in the headlock and he kind of sends his weight over the front of its head and it literally flipped the whole bull. That's just a guy tackling a big four-legged animal, and then you go watch the big cats take down another cow or whatever. They do that same kind of tucking over the back. So it's like we do it in jiu-jitsu class doing like the Leo Vieira roll, but Andrew did it to a bull, and then you see the animals doing it to each other. So there's like definitely some common themes throughout like mammal grappling. I don't even know what you would call that, you know?
Yeah, man versus animal.
And then, you know, that's like just furry stuff, right? But then you have like praying mantises with just like giant pincers. That's like a whole that's like the kung fu bow staff and stuff, right? They got straight up weapons.
You ever watch Kung Fu Panda?
Not in its entirety, but
one.
I've seen plenty of clips of it.
Pretty solid movie.
I even used the skadoosh.
Yeah, no critiques.
Yeah.
No critiques.
No.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, they got good kung fu in it.
Oh, I don't know. Bro. But when I did do Kung Fu is when the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie came out.
Go.
And, you know, I was a huge...
Avatar State, yip.
Yeah, especially like for the cartoon, like, perfect show, right? But the movie was kind of...
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, the live action first one. But I was in Kung Fu, and so everyone there was, like, so hyped to see it. They called, like, the senseis, like, Sifu or something. But he was so hyped to go see it. And then, you know, everyone hated it. But there was, like, a lot of, like, oh, they did this part of the kata in the movie. So it was, I don't know, kind of playing into what we were talking about with Kung Fu in movies. You know?
Yeah, and we were talking about it, I think, with Nick a little bit. But, like, the Avatar: The Last Airbender cartoon had, like, direct influences from different martial arts styles and different areas. So
and
they did a really good job, and I think a lot of research on that one.
And different spiritualities and stuff too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's
Yeah,
all
different
about
philosophies.
spirits,
Yeah, so me and Wiko talk about bending styles, right?
I thought you were going to say secret tunnel.
But he's like an earthbender style, you know?
Yeah. Brute.
What are you?
Okay, so whenever...
This is like my favorite shit, y'all. This is my favorite shit.
I'm the Avatar.
There you go.
No, but so kind of going off topic, but on topic. I've told you this story just personally before, but when I trained at Caio Terra's in San Jose, Alan Sanchez, you know, 3-time EBI champion, his gym now, it's like San Jose 10th Planet, but it's the Airbender logo for his logo. And the only like advice he gave me like when I trained there, because I trained with he came to our comp classes all the time, was, Grayson, you roll too much like an earthbender. You need to roll like a waterbender. Okay, noted. And
Got it.
But I'm not quite waterbender yet, you know.
Would you say you're air?
He said I was earth, but
What do you think? What do you identify
honestly,
as?
thinking about it now, probably fire.
I-
right? Because
Looking at you, I'm like, yeah, dude, you're fire for sure.
I'm just like, Aoki.
Yeah,
jump
and
on.
that's like what you're talking about with like the philosophy driving it, where it's like firebenders are like ruthless,
No, for
and you're
sure.
just like going in there and like ripping legs off.
or leaving myself vulnerable to
Getting
There we go. I've always thought that I am more like air, watery, but looking at my roles and looking at how I move and all that, bro, I'm so earth. I'm earth as fuck.
Yeah,
you're pretty earth. Yeah,
There's no getting around it. You are more air, water.
yeah. I see air for you. I
yeah,
think,
for sure. Especially like on the mentality side of it.
Yeah.
You know, and like the airbenders are all like the more like monks, I guess.
But can be aggressive if they need to be.
Yeah, they
you
can
know?
defend themselves,
Yeah.
but they're not looking for it. You know, they're
for
pretty
real.
passive.
I would like to think of myself as a monkish earthbender. Not just because I'm fucking
You're not
Asian,
monkish,
Asian and
bro.
bald.
You're not monkish.
I'm not monkish.
No, monks don't sing on the high pitched voice all day.
Oh shit, that's funny.
So, your dad just kind of got into it? He was like a UFC fan. He starts training. At what point did he decide like he wanted to open up his own school?
So that was when we were just moving to Bastrop. So like we were living in Austin when we started all this. Then we moved to Round Rock, stayed at the same gym. Then we moved to Bastrop, which is way cheaper, and it was where I was born and raised for the earlier part of my life. And there was no jiu-jitsu gyms out there. You know, there was like one like kung fu or taekwondo or something. And so my dad like approached them and approached like a yoga gym, and we were like, hey, can we just rent out your gym and just do like 2 or 3 classes a week? Like I'll just train with my kids, and if a couple people want to come, cool, you know? Basically, instead of paying a membership, do that. And everywhere in the small town Bastrop, like, no, like we can't do that. It's competition, you know? So he's like, all right. He tells my professor before, and he's like, dude, just open up your own gym. He's a purple belt, you know?
Okay.
So it's like pretty early to open up a gym.
Yeah.
But he did like a ton of research, put like bunch of time into it and open it up and super definitely most successful gym in Bastrop. Been open like 12 years now or something,
Nice.
11.
Sick.
And that was like the best part of my life training, you know, training at Insight, like, you know, probably 11, 12 to like 16, 17, you know? So it's like when I won my world title at juvenile, I was there, and just like me really dedicating, like going homeschool, training 3-4 classes a day, teaching 6 a.m. class, and then training all day, never leaving the gym. Getting my buddy who's old enough to drive me to tournaments every weekend. Like that's like core memory jiu-jitsu.
And that's like when we would have first started crossing paths with each other,
100%,
because like we didn't really know each other until we started training together at Fight Factory in like 2020.
Yeah.
But like once we did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen you at Naga tournaments in Houston and Dallas for years.
Yeah, we've been in the same room like 20 plus times.
Yeah. And that's how it is like with the jiu-jitsu community. I constantly have people like, oh dude, I've been seeing you for a while, but we just didn't like break the ice and that kind of stuff.
When did you leave Bodies?
2015.
Okay, it might have been before. What belt were William and Andrew? Do you remember?
Green.
Both were green,
but
already?
like fake green. So like I gave Andrew his green for sure too young and too soon.
Yeah.
But
What's fake green?
so like the IBJJF has like age requirements to where like you can't kind of progress. Like if you're 7, you can't be a green belt. It's like, you know, you probably can't even be an orange belt, but you can probably be a yellow belt. And then maybe at like 8 or 9, you could now be an orange. And then at like 10, you could maybe be a green or something like that.
So he was
Probably not, right? It's probably like 12.
So he was only green by age, because of age.
No, he was green
before he
because
should have
he was so good, and he had like the previous kids coaches had kind of put him at like orange belt with stripes by the time I was his coach. So it was like, I want to promote you. You're still progressing, and I want to, you know, he was still so young. I want to give him those belts, right? But I didn't at that time. I hadn't done an IBJJF yet, and I didn't know anything about the IBJJF. So we weren't even using the same kids belt system that they use, and so I for sure didn't know about the age minimum requirements.
Well, but also that's right around the time the belt system changed. So like probably right before you became his coach, it was just white, yellow, orange, green. So if you were training 3 or 4 years as a kid, you were normally a green belt. You know what I mean? And then like right probably before you started coaching, they added, you know, gray with white, gray, gray black, yellow white, yellow, yellow black, orange white, orange, you know, all the way through to green. So they added gray and then made every belt 3 belts. So then now you know, you're training 5 years and you're like barely a yellow belt. But before that was your first belt a year-ish.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do remember that scale shifting to where we're at now, where like you said, you got 4 or 5 year competitors that are gray-black and they're not even a yellow belt yet. And they're having, then like the white belt who just finished his white belt's a gray-white and they're in the same division. And it's like, dude, that kid's got 4 or 5 years experience. This kid's got maybe 1 or something like that. And so I think basically that whole system has only created a much more severe sandbagging circumstance for the kids' jiu-jitsu. And
kids are also just so good now, dude. Like I don't understand it, bro. You see gray white belts who go out there and they look like freaking, you know, Rafa Mendez and Cobrinha, like double guard pull, Barambolo, like even stuff that wasn't around when some of these guys were in their prime. These kids look like better than world champions when I started training, you know?
So I do like that there's like the more belts and you can kind of give them more stripes over time and more promotions, but the competition scene is pretty rough, seeing like these kids that they're definitely in the old time they would have been a orange belt or a green belt, and then like when you go to a competition and you're orange or green, like you have a pretty high expectation. And now if I see a kid that's got an orange or a green belt, I'm like, oh, they're like a black belt, especially like what a black belt would have been in 2012, you know?
I feel like if you're a green belt kid, you should be able to beat like hobbyist black belts. Like
that's fair.
Brandon Gutierrez, I don't know why he's the first name. I remember he beat a black belt at green belt.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like me, William, probably Andrew. Like most good. If you get your green belt, you should be beating black belts in competition.
I think me and Brandon were in that same bracket when he did that.
Wow.
So he was a green belt. I was an adult purple belt, and he was stepping up as like a teenage kid at green, going all the way up to like an adult expert at Naga or something like that. And yeah, I mean, William was like subbing not only black belts but like
good
high level black
belt.
belts
Yeah,
at green
yeah.
belt, you know.
His was different than the rest of the names I mentioned, you know, but
Yeah.
like still like William beat like a good black belt in competition. That's not what I'm saying. I think a green belt should be able to beat a hobbyist that doesn't really compete much in competition.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
I'm feeling the same thing that we got our gray belts at the gym that are teenagers that I'm rolling with them, and I'm like, bro,
You're good. Yeah.
this is scary. And you know, some of them are big, some of them are really strong.
How old is a green belt? Like generally, I guess.
14.
Yeah. So I think
Damn.
like I'll look at the age minimums later, but like my guess would be you probably have to be at least 12 to get to green. So it'd be
Green
like 12
wire
to
or something,
16. Because if you're a green belt and you hit 16, you pretty much automatically should just be getting your blue belt
If
at
you
that
get your
point.
green belt, you should be getting your blue belt January 1st, the year you turn 16. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a green belt, they're not going to wait halfway through the year because you're missing Pans Worlds. It's your first year you're able to do that as a juvenile. Like, there's no Worlds for kids, you know? So you're going to be on it, like, December for most of this, like, legit green belts. You'll see some green belts that, you know, have it when they're a juvenile, but...
Yeah, because if you're the age of a 16-year-old, is there even a division for you at Pan Kids? Yeah, so you pretty much have to. And I think I've even known some people that maybe didn't even get their blue belt, but then like they wanted to compete in juvenile at Worlds, so then they just like wore a blue belt and competed at it because it's like, yeah, it is totally the same thing.
Back in the day, they also didn't regulate. Like, you could go from juvenile or teen green belt to juvenile white belt, which is kind of...
I do remember
shitty,
watching
yeah.
like green belts and adult white belts competing a lot,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's...
If they put them together,
Crazy.
I don't mind it. But if you're going to do pans and you go from, okay, I've trained 7 years and I'm a green belt to now I'm a juvenile white belt, and you're going against 15-year-olds that are like a year
Actual
into
white
training.
belts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty,
Yeah, that's rough.
Did you cross train during that like homeschool era?
Bro, yeah. I mean, me and William would train a good amount, you know, like Eastside Austin Elite was there, and me and William were both there like every Friday. Paragon in Austin, getting ready for like the GI majors at juvenile. Solid gym, underrated gym.
I was about to say the same thing, especially after that Who's Number One that you were on.
Bro, that first
There was that
guy?
first guy, and I did like the smallest amount of research before the event. And then when I was at the event running athletes like out to compete, I was just kind of talking with more people back there, and everyone was like, no, that guy's really good.
He was.
And like I was talking to black belts that say that he subs them
Yeah.
in training, and I was like, damn.
I
So
trained with him like the day after Who's Number One. Like, we both went to, or like 2 days after, we were both at Val. And he was bigger than me, and I was like going chill week before Worlds, and I couldn't get anything on him, and he maybe even got me, you know? He's solid. And then afterwards, he was trying to Caio Terra footlock everyone he trained with because I was going for it on him. So he was like, cool guy.
yeah. So after 16, then what was the whole decision of going to California? Like, why Caio Terra specifically?
So, Caio's same team that we were on, right? So we were Braza under Mario, and Caio's Caio Terra Braza. So
Who's like the leader of Braza in like Brazil?
I think I would say leader of Braza is Comprito, but he's in Chicago.
Okay.
You know, legend, green hair. He coached me when I won Nogi Worlds at Juvenile, actually.
Oh, that's sick.
It was really cool, yeah. So he's like kind of in charge of it, but then Caio Terra's part is maybe bigger, but they're not the Braza name, you know? So it's just Braza CTA as one team. So kind of two separate heads of different parts that compete under the same name. But so they're kind of like a sister team, not officially connected. So it was kind of like weird going, but then that's the only reason it worked out, you know? I had a friend / kind of competitive rival growing up who was there training already. He was already training under Caio. And I was like, bro, you got to find a way if I can go. And I expected him to be like, yeah, sure, and blow me off because we came up like rivals kind of competing all the time. But he was a cool guy and like asked right away, and they said yes. I went up. I paid like $200 for 2 weeks to train there and live in the gym. And I had to clean the mats too. It was like a good deal for a Pan Am's training camp. Then COVID happens. Oh, like right before COVID happens, we're about to train for Pans. And Caio was like, you know, what are your plans after this? I drove my Mustang up there, 26 hours or whatever. So they know like this guy wants to stay here, you know. And he was like, you know, we want you to stay on the team. You know, you don't have to pay anything. We'll sponsor all your meals and competition and let you live here. Like, cool. Then COVID happens. Like 2 days later, you know, Pans gets canceled. I came back to Austin for like 2 weeks. Like, you know, what did they call it? Like weather the storm. Like code is supposed to be
What
gone
did
in
they
2
say?
weeks. What was it?
I don't know.
There was some
2
term.
weeks to stop the spread or something like that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I came to do that and then realized after 2 weeks this shit's not ending.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
not going nowhere.
I just drove the Mustang back to California, and I got to be there for like almost a year. It was like, you know, definitely what really opened my eyes to like professional training. And like Caio had us training 8 hours a day, right? So it could be like 8 hours including lifting or running or studying sometimes, you know, but you had to get like 8 hours of like 2-year jiu-jitsu a day, work a full-time job, you know? So I think there's better ways to do it, but that's, you know, the work ethic that got put into us and the drilling and the hard work and competitive nature I got there like helped me a ton to this day.
Were you like feeling like you hit a wall by like being in Bastrop and trying to do cross training, and that was like part of why you felt like you needed to go to like a professional team like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like hit a wall, but it was just like training at my dad's gym, which I loved and I got a ton out of. But first, my kind of my main training partner wasn't really training there as much. And then everybody else who I was training with, you know, they're hobbyists and they're good hobbyists, but I would like go to sweep them and they would just accept the sweep. And then I'd be like, hey, like, I'm getting ready for Worlds. Like, can you try to, like, if I come up
Give me
for a
some
sweep,
sauce.
fight it back? But, like, not getting upset at them, just trying to, because they don't know. They're just flow rolling. Whatever, I'll be on bottom now. It's like, okay, for me, I need you to give me some resistance. And then people started taking it the wrong way. Like, oh, I'm just here to roll. He's being selfish and all this stuff. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm not trying to upset people. I don't have a right to tell people how to train, but if I can't get the looks I need, like, it wasn't even about how good anyone is. It's a super solid gym, but it's more sub only, chill. Like, they're good gi guys still, but just not the looks I needed.
Well, it makes sense at that age too. Like, it is perfectly natural and normal to like outgrow a training environment.
Yeah.
To where then you need to like escalate and kind of go somewhere else.
Yeah, it was a tough choice, but I mean, I think Caio's was really good. And then, you know, when Caio's ran up, like, it was, you know, like I said, they were paying for everything for me and my buddy who was training there. And we were training for like almost a year through COVID, like 9-10 months. And then the cops come and bust us during comp training, like in the back room. You know, we have all the windows taped up. And we're training and like they're like, shh, shh. So we sit there and the cops walk there. We're all like sitting on the mats. And they told our coaches, like, okay, $5,000 fine per class per day if you keep going. Dang. So it was like $25,000-$30,000 fine per day if they kept going. And, you know, we were teaching, they were doing regular classes still secretly, you know. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
No, I mean, it's over now. I think people's like feelings towards that whole process have changed. Like, even a lot of the people that were like fully committed, buying into everything they were told, I think have had like a little bit of clarity after the fact of like, okay, that was too much, right? Obviously, yes, training jiu-jitsu during it was probably causing some transfer. I definitely caught it the first time from doing a jiu-jitsu class when it was like really going around, but I think it's fine now. I think that people are pretty over it.
You're not putting other people in risk, you know? It's like I was still training with everybody who was like a young athlete and wanted to train, but I wasn't like, okay, now I'm going to go hang out with my great grandma, you know? It's like,
yeah, exactly. When I lived down the street with my brother and we had a ton of mats, we went to 10th Planet Austin and picked up even more. So we had like hundreds of square feet of mats, and we created this little crew, and we already had each other as training partners. So at a minimum, we're living together. Training together seems fine, right? Because it's like if one of us gets it, we're both going to get it. And that was the time where everyone was on full lockdown, right? But then we did have 3 other people that would come over. So it was like a couple and then one other guy. And we would train every day at like noon. And they pretty much lived by themselves. So yes, they were like transferring with us, but like nobody was going out. Nobody was doing anything. And we would train with like the garage door open. And sometimes we'd put the mats on the driveway instead of just like with the garage door shut inside. And that time was so heightened and stressful that we had like our neighbors coming up to us with cameras and like trying to take pictures, and like we never had any major like blow ups with anybody about it. But I remember that feeling of being like, wow, like they're perceiving like this tiny small group training. Because my point is that it was the same people every time. We didn't have one day it's this guy, one day a different guy, and we're all mixing together. It was the same people every day. And it's like, yeah, you see people coming over to our house, but it's like the same person, you know? But I feel like that's all just been kind of washed away now. And looking back on it, it's like crazy because everybody was doing like putting black trash bags on jiu-jitsu windows, and you know we were doing the same thing. We were doing like our little secret sessions when the gyms were fully closed.
Well, in Texas, they allowed gyms to open up like way before California and stuff, but there were still like mask laws, and so gyms were training with masks on,
What?
Yeah,
that's California. We didn't do that because we weren't supposed to be training anyways, so it was just like, well, we're already here.
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic in Texas was like 3 months.
Yeah.
And then in California, it was like 2 years.
Yeah, bro. Dude, I mean, I remember the first pans that came back. It was like right after I left Caio's, but I wasn't training at Fight Factory yet, so they still like coached me and everything. And it was in Florida, and the referees are there with a mask on and a plastic visor over their head. And you had to wear your mask up into the mat, and then I think you would take it off to go compete. I think you took it off to compete.
Yeah, you had to, right?
But it's crazy. Like I went back and watched some videos from like different competitors at that event, and it's a trip,
Yeah, and even here, we were doing fight to wins. We're in Texas at least by 2021 spring.
Oh no, I did 2 fight to wins during that year I was in California during the beginning of COVID. So like it was 3 months into COVID.
Everyone's wearing a mask at the event, but still like it's a jiu-jitsu crowd, probably the worst group of people to try to tell them to not like transfer and like stay 6 feet apart and stuff. So what was like the living arrangement? Are you like sleeping on the mats at the gym, or did y'all have like an apartment?
When I first went there, I had a crash pad, like the more padded like judo throw mats, and I lived in I guess the first like week or two. So the gym was like one half of this like huge building, right? There's 2 mats in the gym, right? So it's like a huge space on its own. That's half the building. Then the other half was like a vacant like building, I guess.
Like
I don't know how to say it, but like
building,
but like under construction looking,
Okay.
And so I was in that room on the crash pad for like a week or something, and they slowly started like building the room out. Now it's like a huge like CrossFit gym, like looks beautiful. But the first thing they kind of built in there, I think, was like the laundry room, and put a washer and dryer in there. And so once that was in, boom, I moved in there. And so I was there for like a couple months, and then I don't know exactly why I left. I forget now, but funny story that it's not why I left, because it was right when I first moved in, but maybe part of the reason they didn't want me living in the gym. I had like this protein shake, like literally day I moved in, and I put it up on like the top rack in the laundry room, or maybe it was a couple weeks in, and I knock it over and it spills everywhere. This protein drink, and I clean it up, get cleaner spray, like clean it up very well. But the next day's training, and it smells so bad in the gym. And I'm like, I don't know. And so they got upset at me over that. But eventually they moved me out to like just down the street. They had a gi shop, and like Mason Fowler lived there. He had like a super nice master bedroom in it. And then I lived in the closet where they kept the gis.
Hell yeah.
So you're on like a crash pad. Do you have like a sleeping bag and a pillow, or just like some blankets and a pillow, or are you just straight up sleeping on a crash pad?
You're just sleeping with the sweat.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a clean crash pad. Okay. I don't think they used it for anything. I just slept on it, But yeah, no, I don't think I had a blanket or anything at first. But eventually when I moved into the closet in the gi shop, I got a little mattress that went like the closet was decently big, but it had like big racks of gis on the side, and the inside was like enough to fit the smallest size bed.
You're like sleeping underneath like racks of hanging gis, right?
They follow me, I die.
Yeah.
That's like some Harry Potter meets Daisy Fresh shit right there.
Yeah, cooler than Daisy Fresh, but. But my buddy lived there too, right? The one that got me there. And he lived like in the gym in this little like loft, right? But the loft, it was maybe like from the camera can't see, but like maybe like this tall total, So he would be like this, leaning in the wall, like playing video games and stuff. And like long enough for like one bed to fit, maybe a little bit longer, but very cramped. And so he lived there. They called it the Cafofo, which I don't know what that means in Portuguese, but it's some sort of
Let us know.
place you don't want
Sounds
to
like
live.
coffin to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody there told me that it meant like slave quarters, but Rodrigo's like, no, that's not what it means. But I forget what it means. Something like a hut or like a cave or something like that, you know? So we're there for most of the year, right? And then COVID happens. They shut us down. We can't train at all at the gym. So like me and Renee, my buddy, go to Mason's girlfriend's house in Fresno for like a week or two to train down there. And we get back and they set us down and they're like, guys, the AC in the gym was left on for like 2 weeks. It's a huge space. They're like, we lost a couple $1,000 and you know we don't have any money coming in right now. We're already paying you guys to live here. We're already contemplating what to do, and now it's like,
shit,
you know, while the gym's closed, we can't afford to keep paying you guys. Like, you guys can, if you want, both live together in the Cafofo. It was basically like, we're not telling you to leave, but leave kind of thing.
Yeah.
And,
your options are kind of out at this point.
Yeah. So, but they told me when I left, they're like, okay, if you're going back to Austin, when I told them I was going to leave, they're like, you have to train with Rodrigo. You know, like you have to train at Fight Factory because he trained Yuri Samos, who, you know, trained at Caio's.
Okay.
And they're just like, that's the gym to train at in Austin. Like, cool. I know all the guys there already, you know. It was a bit of a, I waited like a month or two after coming back before I made the decision because I've never, you know, same team gym my whole life. It was a big decision, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I obviously did it.
So what year, month was that you ended up starting at Fight Factory?
Like end of 2020, I think it was, because it was like a condensed year. You know, like I think I went there in January, February to California. Then COVID happened. Then I was there for like 9-10 months. Then I came back like right at the end of the year, I think.
So you were at the old spot?
Yeah.
In that strip? Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I went full time at Fight Factory at like the very beginning of 2021. Yeah. And I think we like met at Fight Factory sometime in 2020 for a training session. But I don't even know if you were like, as I remember it, you were still like, yeah, I think I'm going to join the team. And it was like me, you, and JT. And we were just kind of talking about like, I was new to the team. I was going through that same thing of like, yeah, I'm not really a part of this yet, but I'm trying to get in with it. And it seems like a really good decision. And there's a lot of like hype behind specifically Cody and William at the time. And Andrew was like just now getting old enough to start being into like more like professional matches against adults and stuff. I mean, he was still like doing great at trials, but like really starting to get that pro career going. And so I could kind of see what was like building there. And I remember JT convincing both of us basically. And he was like, yeah, this is the spot. You guys are going to do well here.
Yeah, definitely. I knew I was going to stay there once I was, or not stay there, but I knew when I was in Austin, that was going to be my gym. Like my plan was to come back for a couple months, figure out money, go back to California. Because at the time, training in Austin or Texas was just not anything compared to California, you know? Still for the gi, it's kind of tough. But my plan was to go back. And I told Rodrigo that. I was like, hey, like, I don't know how long I'm here. I want to save up money and go back. But this is my plan for now. And his whole thing was like, okay, like, who are you going to compete with while you're here? I was like, no, that's totally fair. Like, I'll compete under you guys while I'm training here. Because why am I training here? To be the best competitor I can be, you know?
Yeah.
But my plan was to like find a way back, ideally to Caio's, you know? If not, there were some other gyms in like San Diego I was looking at. But I went to talk to my old professor, you know, about training at Rodrigo's. And as soon as I told him I was going to train there and, you know, represent while I was here, but eventually, you know, possibly go back, he was like, nah, you know. I don't know. I don't want to share the whole conversation, I guess, just because, you know, I'm cool with my old professor now. We're on good terms. But it was just kind of like, I don't know. I'm sure kind of like heartbreak on both sides of it, you know. But
yeah, dude, gym breakups are tough.
Yeah.
I've been through several of them. And like even I had to go through that in like a much more chill way when I moved back to Austin, kind of right before the pandemic hit.
With your body?
No, with like Roberto Jimenez and his dad, right? And so I was training under Raul as far back as like definitely like 2016. So it was really like 4 years. And I wasn't like super full time. I taught some Muay Thai classes at their gym. So I would go like Tuesdays and Thursdays and hit gi class and then teach after. And then like Sundays I would do an open mat. So it was like no more than 3 days a week. and I wasn't hitting that like every week, you know? So I wasn't as committed, but I was there for years and we developed a relationship. And due to other life circumstances, I moved back here. And when I guess I just like texted him about it, but we had talked about it again later. And I was like, look, like I am going to miss training under you guys and being with you guys, but like, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be a part of Fight Factory. And he was super cool about it. And like, we're still really cool, but it was just a bummer because we kind of grew a relationship and grew to like each other, you know?
Yeah, I think the conversations are important though. You know, like if you didn't talk to him, the relationship probably wouldn't be there
Yeah.
anymore.
And that was why I felt like I needed to address it because I was like immediately like working at Fight Factory right away. And I was like, okay, if I'm working here, like I need to like let him know and make sure that he's cool with this.
For sure.
You were talking about potentially jumping in at Fight Factory just for a couple months and then bouncing back to California. How long did it take at Fight Factory for you to realize that, like, oh, I'm gonna stay here?
Honestly,
or have you not decided that
No,
yet? And you're still about to go to California.
100% I'm here for good now. But honestly, it was just a talk with my first professor. Like just how that went and stuff. It was like, you know, I wasn't instantly like, okay, I'm at Fight Factory now. But just seeing that, like, I don't know. I was like not welcome to even train at Caio's for a while after that. And there were other spots I was interested in California too. But I don't know, just having that kind of like heartbreak situation, I guess. And then training at Fight Factory. And it was such like a just good vibe training environment, you know? Like the one thing that concerned me was I felt like it wasn't intense enough. But I think it was just the culture shock from Caio's to Fight Factory of like intense, like train 8 hours a day, don't do any grips wrong or you're, you know, messing up. Like it was very intense. And then Fight Factory is like, you can do the move wrong if you want. I mean, you're not going to be good, but if you want to do it, you know? And it was just a very like shocking environment. So that was the only thing was like, I was contemplating trying to find like a more comp push based gym at the time. But the vibe was just so good at Fight Factory, and you know we used to lift with all the guys.
Yeah,
I feel like that was one thing they did well with both of us. We came in, you know, like you said, feeling kind of like, well, we want to be here, but do we fit in? And pretty quickly, both me and you were like lifting with all the guys. I know you know them for a while, and I knew them way less than you, but I knew them for a while too. But it just helped be like, okay, these guys want to see me get better, you know.
Do you think the like competition drive and intensity aspect of Fight Factory is still something that's lacking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have amazing competitors, and I think our hobbyists are more aggressive and more competitive than most hobbyists by far. But I do think our competitors, it's like, you know, we're doing the comp class now, and it's like, okay, comp training at 9, we drill for like half an hour, and they do some like hard rounds. And then a lot of guys are like, oh, 9, okay, I'll show up at 9:20, drill for 5 minutes, you know, not really try to progress on anything I'm drilling, just drill because Grayson wants to drill. Really, you know. And
yeah,
then
you're steering that ship for sure.
Yeah, and then we do like 40 minutes of like 30 minutes of rolling, and then like half the guys are like, all right, I'm done. And it's like, okay, cool. But then most of those rolls too are like not, and even if they're
Hard.
intense scrapping, it's not like we're not paying attention to the points and stuff like that, which I mean, obviously look at the results Fight Factory gets. We're super successful. Like it's a great gym. Like I think we get enough good training in different aspects, you know, but just that part of me that enjoys that like competitive drive of like being around people that are like, oh, okay, yesterday he caught me with a sweep with 30 seconds left and, you know, I handled the situation wrong. Today I'm going to beat him, you know, and maybe it's by advantage, maybe it's by a penalty that he got, but we're keeping track and I'm beating him, you know, and that pushes you to be so much better in training sessions. It's like, and yeah, the vibe can be intense, you know, it's a trade-off. Like I wouldn't trade the vibes we have at Fight Factory for that, but I think there's a happy medium of where we can have guys like aware of, you know, if we're doing ADCC, okay, we're keeping track of the ADCC points. And if you go for a takedown, I'm going to fight that takedown like the look you'll get at ADCC, right? Because similar like what I was saying with my dad's gym in Bastrop about people not giving me the looks to fight
sweeps.
A sweep. Yeah. It's different. That's like a more earlier stage of it, but it's the same thing to a certain extent where it's like, oh, I'm not getting looks at fighting against someone resisting. Like, look at how well Josiah does in training, right? Because he fights like that.
Yeah.
If he's getting taken down, he will try his hardest to not get taken down, and he can do it to people better than him, you know? And we have a little bit of that lacking, I think, because the vibes are like, and William's so good. Like he's so good. He doesn't have to do a lot of the stuff other people have to do, right? So we go train, and it's like, okay, warm up, hand fights, train, and it's like a very chill session, and he gets so much out of it because he's just a genius, you know. And I get a ton out of it too. You know, I learned so much, but it's a more laid back training style. So then we have people trying to be like, all right, let's keep track of points and do all this. It's like, well, William doesn't do that, and he's
different.
great. It's like, okay, yeah, you don't have to do that. I just think it
Well,
helps.
even for me as a coach, I've worked so much with those guys for these trials runs over the last couple of years, and then like going to once the ADCC Open started, staying on that as well. So I put a ton of time into the ADCC like training methods and how to like run those camps, and I feel like in tune with that. But because I spent so many years focusing on that, now I look at the IBJJF stuff and I'm like, man, I don't even know from the coaching perspective how to push in those ways like I do for ADCC. You know,
Mine's the opposite too. Like I'm familiar enough with ADCC, but I know the IBJJ. I know how to play every little game in IBJJF. You know.
You talked about vibes a lot, and like the difference of vibes in Fight Factory and Caio Terra's, right? And also Insight. What do you think are some of the biggest factors that kind of curate these vibes at Fight Factory that we have and that we know and love?
Honestly, I mean, it's like you have William and Andrew and Cody that were there in big parts of it, but I don't think, and they lead the vibe in their own ways for sure. But I think the reason it is the vibe of like intensity, like in your, like I'm saying, like the scrapping we have at Fight Factory mixed with the laid back, like nobody's worried about it ego wise and we're all chill, and I don't know, it's a very cool like vibe. I think it's all Rodrigo. I think it's like, you know, so laid back. You got like I said earlier, you ask Rodrigo like, oh, you showed the sweep like this, I like to do it like this. He'll be like, okay, do the sweep like that, see how it works for you. Like he won't be like, no, I've been training 30 years, I know it's like this. He'll be like, okay, there's no point arguing, try it out for yourself, see if it works, you know what I mean? But he says it in like a cool way. And that type of vibe, I think that's just a great way to show the atmosphere we have there. And it's like you're hanging out. If you're not rolling, you can sit on the side. Nobody's yelling at you. You know, if you're injured, you can train around your injury, and there's no pressure to be like, oh, we have to train hard. If you're doing a grip wrong, you can figure it out for yourself. But if you watch any of the rounds, nobody's there like holding top half guard or like stalling 50-50. Every round at Fight Factory is like, okay, even if I don't know what I'm doing right now, I'm moving and I'm trying to do something. It's like the guys there, and the guys at Fight Factory, we smother, we go knee on face, we crank over the face, and it's like no bad vibe. It's like, cool, it's jiu-jitsu. What? And then you go to another gym, like, and my dad's gym, for example, just more hobbyist gym, or I'm just use that as an example, but literally like 90% of the gyms in Austin or anywhere, and you roll like that, people are like, what's wrong with this asshole? Like he tried to smother me. He was mean from knee on belly. Like he kind of choked over my chin a little bit. It's kind of sore. Like what was up with that? You know? But Fight Factory, it's like, dude, that's jiu-jitsu. We're training like we're Wagner Hocha, and we're trying to roll hard, and then there's no bad feelings after, you know?
Yeah, I actually just went through that last week visiting Justin's.
Yeah.
And my first round, I saw the opportunity to smother my training partner. And I was like, I'm going to set the tone, because that is how we train at Fight Factory. And it's like, I don't mean anything by it. It's a position where that was the next thing I needed to do to improve my position. And so I pinched his nose with my fingers and I sealed his lips with my fingers. And I was like, yeah, now you have to deal with me smothering you in addition to the omoplata that you have. And I could tell when I did it. He said something during the roll, and then afterwards he was like, oh, yeah, you do that? And I'm like, yeah, you do that. It's all right. I don't mean anything by it.
I am too polite of a role to be doing that.
But you are, but still, if you go train at a bunch of other gyms, you're going to realize traits you have from training at Fight Factory that other people frown on. It's little things, like
really?
the way you grab hands or something like that, where people are like,
yeah,
what? You know, like, and you are a chill. I'm not saying you're. It's just we train hard, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like the peak of like the Fight Factory reputation was probably somewhere around 2021 ish, and I think it was like pressure. Like if we're gonna squeeze as hard as we can, versus like other places, like you said, like maybe drop that intensity down. And I remember when I was getting back into the Austin scene was kind of blowing up. It was like, oh, Fight Factory, yeah, you guys train and roll really hard, and you use a lot of pressure. and like the pressure passing, I guess, kind of coming from Rodrigo. Dude, we've never really I've never gotten this story, but didn't you break your back?
Yeah, I fractured my L4 in 2 spots when I was 15. My first year juvenile, so I guess 15 year you turn 16. Um, yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like I started homeschooling a year or two before that, and so I was training like 3 times a day at least, teaching, like just living in the gym, you know. And I got so much better in that time. Like I went from like barely winning local tournaments to like winning, 3 golds at every tournament I did every weekend, and then starting my juvenile career, you know. So it was like finally I'm competing well, training hard, and just training too much, I think. And so I was rolling with one of my buddies, and he like, an adult, and he like suplexed me on my neck.
Oh
And
shit.
I was like, definitely a little bit hurt, but didn't really think anything of it. But I think that's kind of the initial time where I got little fractures in it. And maybe like 3 weeks later, I was competing, and a guy went for a double leg. And I jumped for a triangle. I finished the triangle, got the dub.
Count it.
And then they stand up to like raise my hand. And I'm like punched over. When they raise my hand, I'm like hobbling off.
Oh.
I think just the way, sorry, I guess the audio might not be good.
That's all right.
But I'm like hunched over there, and then I'm like hobbling back afterwards. Like, guess the way he took me down just landed on my back bad. And so I go to the side, like on the concrete. This is IBJJF Dallas, and my dad's like pushing on my back,
Oh
trying to like help it
gosh.
feel better. I go do my finals match, like
That wasn't the last one.
no, it was the first. It was only a 4-man division, I think, and actually the guy who I ended up moving to Caio's with was in that division at the time, but. So I win that match, go to the finals match against Sebastian Serpa, who's a great black belt now. You know, he's like my age, but he's making waves in the gi. And we like double pool, I think. I don't know. I feel like I was having a pretty decent match, but he ended up catching me in an armbar. And then so my dad walks me back to the truck. We go back to the hotel, doing like hot bath all night. He's doing like massage stuff. Wake up the next day, no-gi day, you know? Go do no-gi. You know, he helps me walk in. I think I won the first match off an advantage, and then lost my second match, I think, by advantage. And then, the whole time I like can't really walk on my own, you know? So I'm exaggerating a bit, and I could walk, but it was extreme pain, you know? And so my dad's like helping me walk to the truck and stuff. And then the week after that, I had the Anna Invitational, right? Which, Gordon Ryan competed at, I think the first one against the guy who used to run Paragon. It's like a very legit feeder to EBI. And I'm like, I can't miss this opportunity. So I go do it with the broken back a week. And I didn't know it was broken yet. But I'm like, can barely move. I go to pull guard. The guy like spins under me, catches me in a vaporizer submission in like 15 seconds. And so, yeah, I get tapped, but I get a bunch of on it goodies, like $500,000 or some shit worth of stuff for losing in 15 seconds. And then so it's like 2 or 3 more weeks of just trying to train after that, like literally like getting help into the gym. But then when I'm on the ground, I can play guard and stuff, you know what I mean?
That's
not
crazy.
Actively, but like get to close guard, you know?
Yeah.
And then so finally we go to a chiropractor, and they're to get an adjustment, you know, and they do like the pre-x-rays, and they're like, your back's fractured in 2 spots. Like, oh dang. Then in the vertebrae, it's like the little bits that hang off the vertebrae. I'm not a scientist, but they like both of them broke off all the way through.
Oh wow.
I
So
don't know much
sucked,
about it, but I know we want our bits. So
You know what?
we want our bits.
Won our bits, yeah.
We want those for sure.
So how long do you think it took to recover from that before you were back, like feeling like yourself competing?
So that was in like March that year. It was right after Pans, I think, but before Worlds, so I couldn't do Worlds. And then, I mean, I think by like that December I was competing again, but not well. You know,
Yeah.
like it was like almost, it was like the rest of the year for sure. Well, at first I kept lifting through it because I was like, okay, stop training. But they said the lifting was like irritating it a lot still. So I had to stop lifting too. And it was rough, being a kid, not coming from like an athletic background, not knowing how to deal with injuries. It was like a lot mentally and just trying to get through it physically. And then when I came back, it was good for like a year. You know, I think I won Juvenile Worlds that next year.
Okay.
And right whenever I won Juvenile Worlds my last year, Juvenile, I cut like 20 pounds like a week and a half to make weight to win. And after my last match, so it's like a year after competing healthily, right? I'm like walking off the mat and I literally, you can see on flow, I like collapse. You can see like my head fall. And I couldn't get up for like 5 minutes and my hamstrings were just like curled up. I couldn't like straighten my legs. It's like dehydrating and cramping.
Damn.
And then, you know, I rehydrated a bit, went to the podium, won, you know, got my gold and everything. And then, you know, I competed Euros like a month after that in January, first adult tournament. But I was barely training because my back and like hamstrings were so tight. And I lost like 2 or 3 rounds in, didn't medal. And then for like 6, 7 more months, I didn't mean to do 6, 7, but like a few more months training, I couldn't really train because I was literally just like so compressed. I was doing like PT and different stuff like this because I didn't really do PT the right way at first. And eventually I got it back to where I could like train and walk normally, but it still would hurt all the time. And the pain never went away till lifting with Zach Tellender and doing like the deadlifts and stuff. And
shout out
never
Zach.
been back since, you know.
I'm so thankful that we got that experience with Zach because like he just went on tour with Chris Williamson doing their like live shows like in like Europe and different parts of the US, and he's doing like his music thing. And it's like when we met him, he was a weightlifting coach and we got to be like his kind of group for weight training. But we were like, oh, he's like the YouTuber guy. And he still, I think, does some of that. But like it's really cool seeing his career have shifted. But clearly he's not doing like group training like that anymore. And that was the strongest I've ever been in my life.
Me too,
when we did his program consistently week after week for however many months that got to, I was like deep squatting, but all the way down to my heels with the most weight I'd ever done. I got like PRs on any other lift basically.
Yeah, I mean, I was like tiny and stronger than I am now, maybe. I mean, not really stronger, but like better lifts.
I definitely could lift more than I could right now, probably, at least on a few things.
But I was like 30 pounds lighter, but I was like so ripped. You know, you can see every little muscle and everything. And but yeah.
What's your like, or what is or was your lifting programming like leading up to, you know, like Worlds and all that?
Worlds was a tougher one. Yeah. It was better for most of the year, like leading up to Pans and even like Brazilian Nationals, which I didn't do well at, but I had Brazilian Nationals I didn't cut, right? It's my first time ever doing lightweight, I think, for IBJJF. And so I was like lifting well, doing stuff right. But leading up to like who's number one, I had to cut quite a bit. So honestly, leading up to Pans on for the rest of the year this year, my weightlifting went from like, okay, trying to get stronger to just like lift the same amount of times every week. Like don't lose muscle mass as I'm cutting weight. Because from Pans on, I had to like cut and then maintain a lower weight. And I think I could have done it better for sure. There's a lot of stuff for Worlds in my preparation that I think, you know, I made sacrifices or thought, okay, if I do this, it'll prepare me. But very clearly after, it was like, okay, like I shouldn't have cut the way I did with who's number one and then Worlds right after. And if I didn't do both of them, maybe I could have done a better cut and lifted better leading up to it also. But even still, my routine wasn't like anything crazy when I was lifting. It was just, you know, I switched from like some days, like beginning of the year doing more like push, pull legs, and then towards the end doing more like full body every time. But just basically sometimes of the year was 3 days a week. Sometimes the year was 4 days a week. And I have like my apartment's a studio apartment with my bed, squat rack, a bunch of lifting stuff, assault bike. Like it's pretty much just wake up, work out, go to the gym. Like not for my life, but for my apartment setup, you know?
Yeah. You just basically have a dojo at the house.
Yeah. It used to be all matted up and now it's not matted, but it's still like fully functional athlete stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like doing my own program and then the last like half of the year lifting with Rodrigo. And so whenever I go do with him, it didn't matter what my program was the 2 days before. We might do the same exact thing with him.
Yeah.
And with him, it wasn't like, you're not like really burning out one muscle. It was just like, okay, this workout, then this workout, then this workout with no rest. But they're still like lifting. You know what I mean? And I don't know. His are like kind of intense. Like, I think try to break your will more than like get max gains, you know. But
What do you think are you gonna have like a different program now after that, or do you think just kind of
yes.
freestyle or?
No, yeah, for sure. The tough thing right now for me is balancing my teaching and my training, you know? Like I can lift and I can even up my lifting schedule and my lifting like program to make it more functional with the schedule I have now. But I need to work on my athleticism too. And it's like I do assault bike every other day usually. You know, maybe not as much this week, like last couple weeks, but normally every other day I'm doing assault bike, you know? But still, it's not enough to be like a full athlete. Like there's a bunch of stuff Rodrigo's saying, like just running bleachers and doing different stuff like plyometrics, just stuff consistently to be more athletic. And it's just hard to fit in my schedule right now with how much I'm teaching classes, privates, kids classes, and then trying to train jiu-jitsu enough. So the next few months, I actually am going to kind of train less, just kind of train like 3 days a week, kind of, and then lift most of the other days of the week and try to get more athleticism in. But also, I got to readjust my schedule. Me and Rodrigo are going to talk soon. That way I can do more like, okay, focus on being an athlete. We just got to make the finances work too.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, that's like part of why I just teach, right? Like I learned in 2022 was really the year I like figured it all out, that if I wanted to make content and coach, I couldn't really be a competitor.
Yeah.
So then I was going to have to make a decision between like, all right, is it content and competitor, or, you know, two of the three are going to work, but all three is just too much. And I was like, cool, I love coaching. I'm definitely going to coach. And then I thought the content was fun, so I wanted to stick with that. But yeah, even just at a certain point as a professional athlete, like even the coaching, it's like
that kind of hurts me hearing that, because it's like I need to get my content better too. And there's avenues I'm like looking at to because I really want to get content out there as a teacher. You know, it's like my whole goal and purpose for even competition is like grow the sport. Like I feel like I have a very unorthodox, unique style, and I feel like I have a lot that I can give people that's not just normal, like, well, it's been passed down from generations, like, which is great still, but I just think I have something unique, and I want to be able to do that content wise, but it's hard. Like I've had these plans that I'm not doing because I'm training camp,
because you're a competitor and you're coaching.
And,
Yeah. So on that kind of style thing, when you had your nogi pans run brown belt, did you go back to feather
for that
okay
one, yeah.
And then 4 subs, right?
Yeah,
were they all leg locks?
No, Dead Orchard, one of them, and then
three leg locks.
Yeah.
So, and then you had who's number one shortly after that, got another
Quick
what
leg lock,
Aoki, right?
Yeah, 30 seconds, yeah.
Do you remember, were you always doing leg locks, or was there a time that you finally like found them and then kind of shifted your style into like becoming a leg locker?
The leg locks are just there. People just give them to you. Like that's why if people were like leading with their arms in front of them, I'd be like, cool, arm locks all day. You know, it's just like I just like attacking submissions back to back. You know, like I don't know. I probably need to develop my game in more non leg lock areas so I can like show that more to people, because it does, I think, appear like I do more leg locks. But now I think I've added on more of the like, okay, wrestle up when I need to, like not just sit on your butt and tack feet, you know. But back to your question, like I definitely at Greenbelt, I remember like, you know, Eddie Cummings is coming out, like all these Danaher guys are starting to like make leg locks cool. And dude, I remember I did like my first invitational, like it was the Kumite, and you remember those back in the day. And I did that, and everyone there is talking about like Ashigarami and all these words I don't know.
Strong Ashi, baby.
Bro, and I'm like, dude, I've been training for like 7 years or something. Like, how do I not know jiu-jitsu? And then so I look it all up, and I'm like, oh, that's single leg X. Okay, I mean, I know that, you know, but it definitely made me realize there's a whole part of jiu-jitsu I don't know. So I started getting into the leg locks and stuff. And I wasn't like great at them, but I would just do them. And at that point, if you were doing them, you're a bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And I remember begging my dad to let me do like, you know, the adult advanced divisions at Naga or whatever with heel hooks. And our rule at first was like, okay, but if anyone grabs a leg lock on you, not straight ankle, but like any other leg lock, you have to tap right away. Even if it's not even kind of there, as soon as they grab it, tap. Because I'm a kid still going with adults. He's like, that's the only way I'll let you do it. So it was like a year competing like that. And yeah, I think I maybe only tapped like 2 or 3 of them. But if they grabbed it, I would tap heel hook to hold anything, you know? And even in the gym, I would tap. I wouldn't like let people go on them. I'm like, I don't know it, tap, you know? And then one day I just remember being in the gym like, I think I could not tap. And literally I just started telling myself like, and I wouldn't let my ego get into it. Like if somebody tapped me, I'd be like, okay, cool, I'd tap what I needed to tap. But if they weren't about to get me or like they're going for it, my mindset was just, there's 0% chance they can leg lock me right now. Like I just don't believe there's any way they know how to do it, even if they just tap me with it. You know what I mean? And it would work. Like I would, even if somebody just tapped me with it, they wouldn't be able to tap me just because I'd be like, no, you're not going to tap me. And I think people overthink
My mind's telling me no.
And I wouldn't tell anybody to just do that, but I think people overthink it and they're like, oh, turn which way? What do you do? And if you kind of just do what feels right, kind of go with the flow,
Yo,
I mean,
some people's instincts be wrong, man.
but they're not doing what feels right. They're just like, I have to move.
They're
and
just
they're moving,
freaking out.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
just there, chill. Like, I don't think he can tap me. Oh, it's kind of moving this way. I'll try to move. Oh, it is there. Okay, I'll tap. Next time he can't tap me again. Last time that happened, so maybe I'll try this. Oh no, that doesn't work either. Tap. Oh yeah, he can't tap me again. Well, let's go back to it. You know what I mean? And then eventually you find out, oh, this is what worked for me. But I think a mix of that, like being willing to go for it and being confident enough to really try to escape and not just be like, oh, well, I don't know it,
Well, I think like dropping Eddie Cummings is like really sick because I think that like crazy leg lock revolution that happened in jiu-jitsu, and like Danaher gets a lot of the credit for it, but Eddie Cummings was like the guy that was the catalyst for all of it, and he taught a lot of the DDS, right, the Danaher Death Squad, like original crew. And I think it wasn't necessarily him that gave Danaher the realization. I think there were some other American leg lockers that were kind of before that kind of showed him that it was there. But yeah, Eddie Cummings definitely inspired a lot of the guys that then got like the credit for the evolution to the leg lock game.
If Eddie Cummings wasn't doing it, I don't think Danaher would have made it his whole team philosophy.
Yeah.
Like I do think, I'm not saying it was Cummings that made that happen, but I think that was the only reason that it went the whole way it went,
And that's an interesting one because I'm trying to give him some serious credit, and he's just kind of like not really a figure in the jiu-jitsu world.
Yeah, I think
seems like after the pandemic, he just kind of
even before
did his own thing.
I think he had some issues with the team, the Danaher team, and I think just some personal stuff. I don't think he ever really wanted to be a competitor. I think he was just like a crazy smart guy that figured out some strategies in jiu-jitsu. But it's crazy going back and watching his techniques and seeing how outdated they are now.
Dang.
Like you're like, oh wow. Like I remember I went to one like earlier this year and I was like, let me just try it. Let me go like open-minded, just be like, let me see if it works. And I wouldn't work on anybody. It was like, oh, this is just not a thing anymore. And I really committed to trying to make it work.
Dude, 2020, I had no idea what was going on with the legs.
Yeah.
And it took me somewhere around, I think it was 2022, I finally had my breakthrough of like what you're talking about. Like, oh, I don't have to just tap to all of this anymore. But it was so confusing. Yeah. I mean, I had learned tons of martial arts, doing MMA, competing in Muay Thai, competing in Jiu Jitsu for years and years. But it wasn't popular back when I was competing at like the most, and it wasn't allowed in like the gi. And I just really struggled for a long time. And then eventually, like there's even videos of me like getting subbed by leg locks from like 2020. And it was like really basic stuff that now wouldn't work. But by the time I had gotten up to speed, I was way past the point, what you said of if you were doing it back then, you were kind of ahead of the curve. So then I was still behind the curve. So by the time I learned how to like defend my own legs and start doing attacks, everyone's heel hook defense and awareness was so good that like I never really got a chance.
Too, dude. We had defenses there back in 2020 that people are just learning now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I put William to a lot of the credit on that. He definitely was basically through him specifically was where I finally got to that point where like there's a certain level of leg locker that I kind of respect. I'm like, crap, they're going to get me. But for the most part, I finally feel confident defending them. And
well, dude, like before Fight Factory, I was a bit known for leg locks, right? Like mostly dead orchers, but leg locks, I was starting to hit a lot of them. And I relearned everything after training with William. You know, like 100% of my leg locks. Dang. And a little bit before William was just studying Lachlan. Like there was some stuff I learned from the ADCC run he did that I still use that I don't see William use. But besides that, 100% of my leg locks. Maybe more modern, I've gotten some new stuff, but the base is all William reteaching me everything, you know?
Well, and he's got like, if you go through like whatever website would have like all of his stats. He's leg locks including, but he's just got such a crazy variety of submissions that he's hit people with.
Yeah.
Right. He's got like lat knee bars and straight knee bars and toe holds, heel hooks, A blocks, like calf slicers, different types of calf slicers, you know? So he's one of those guys that he's not just like a leg locker with one main move. He's just like, he can get any sub on you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I said that with leg locks, but really with almost every position, he's revolutionized like how I do it, you know?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Dude, haven't mentioned it yet, but you just recently got your black belt. Congratulations again. Thanks, for getting your black belt. And like, you know, we're kind of talking about all your experience and your background and all this kind of stuff. So 15, 16, somewhere in that range years to get there. And me and Juice got to be present for it. It was really cool. I almost cried like 3 times throughout that process.
Dude, when Rodrigo let my dad put the belt on me all the way, that's when I cried, dude. Like, I literally didn't think I was gonna cry at all. I mean, I remember crying when I got my blue belt, because you train for as a kid. It's like, I think my dad was already a black belt even, you know what I mean? And we started training at the same time. So it's like, this blue belt was almost my black belt of like, okay, I can do juvenile, I can do worlds now. Like, so I remember crying there, but I was a kid too. And I was like, I didn't feel that same way about the black belt. Like, I could feel that blue belt for years, how I was going to cry, you know, and black belt, I'm like, I feel ready, you know? But then when Rodrigo gave it to my dad to put it on me, I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's just like one of those sacrifices you think you made. Like, I never, ever wanted to get my black belt under anyone besides my dad, you know? But then it's like, the training, just I needed, you know, training, and I can't be like, hey, can I come train with you and represent you and, you know, take all the support from you, but then still get promoted under someone else. Like, it's just, you can't ask, at least for me, I can't ask that, you know? And the fact that it like naturally, just Rodrigo's such a cool guy. He's like, no, your dad should give you your black belt. Like, yeah, so cool.
Yeah, that was exactly what it was for me. And I was like right next to you. And then like, I'm right there in that moment where Rodrigo like let your dad do it. And I knew how much it meant to both you guys. Cause like, especially over the last couple of years, I've gotten to know your dad more and we're at competitions all the time. And I think like, I would say this is probably true that like me and him are probably your biggest fans because we're like with you the most at comps and stuff like that. So it's always like me and him watching you with like, we're sweating and we're nervous and stuff, you know? And so like, that's just like such a cool marker, right? Getting your black belt is so it's such a weird thing too, because you're like done with getting ranks now. And I mean, you have the degrees and stuff, but, and there's the coral belts, but like, we're not going to get that for 40 years and those don't really matter. So you're kind of done with this process of getting ranked up. And then now you're just kind of in it. And that moment, you're the newest black belt of all the black belts, which kind of can be like daunting where it's like, all right, now I'm in black belt division, but then there's guys that are like other.
But I see it the other way. I don't see it as daunting at all. I see it as like, first off, super exciting. Second off, it's like you're saying, there's no belts to run through, but it is. It's like, okay, I'm a black belt now. And I think I'm a better black belt than most black belts. Like, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but I've earned it. You know, I won a major title at every belt that I could compete at. So I think I'm better than most black belts. But then you look at the black belts in my division, it's like, oh, I'm not there yet. You know, like, look at Pato. Okay, I'm not Pato level yet, but I really want to compete against Pato. Like, I think I could do very well against him eventually. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I can't remember who I was thinking of recently, but there's some people I'm watching, and it's like, oh, I remember this guy at purple belt when I was a purple belt, and now they're elite black belts who are like medaling at worlds in the gi. You know, and I'm like, that's insane. Like, it doesn't take that much time to turn into the best, and I'm already better than most. I don't know. I'm talking a lot of nothing now, but I feel like by the end of the year, I'm going to be competing with like some of the top 10 ranked guys in my division, and hopefully in a couple years, I am one of the top 3 ranked guys. You know, I think it's possible.
Kind of like the same question about leg locks. When was like the end of your competitive drive with the gi? Because I probably have been with you through some gi somewhere, but all I can really remember is you focusing on no gi. So when did that transition happen?
Since my injury, you know, we didn't talk about it really, but I was out for a while with a neck injury as well. And then just life stuff that came up after that, you know, but that was, before that, it was gi and no gi all the time. You know, I trained at Fight Factory every single class. Like maybe not the morning class or whatever, but I was there every gi, every no gi class, and I competed both. You know, in 3 times a month, competed gi and no gi. The first like time I was at Fight Factory, the first year, and before that, you know. And then I was out with the injuries. I didn't compete for almost 3 years, something like that, before this last like little over a year. And you know, I wanted to compete that whole time. I wanted to get back to training both, and then seeing like CJI and William and Andrew competing nogi and the $1 million and all that. It was like, oh, okay, like you can make, and not just that, also just the contracts people are making at Who's Number One and UFC. It was like, oh, you can actually be a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete now and make money, but not in the gi. And then the other side of that is how much harder is it to be elite in the gi than no gi, right? That's probably why I used the example a minute ago about guys purple belt who are medaling at black belt gi world majors or whatever, world or other majors, because that's tougher. You know, to be an elite gi athlete, you have to be so good at every position. Like no gi, you can kind of get away with just having like a good like few things and funneling your game into those things. Gi, there's a grip and you got to know every reaction from this grip, you know? And I think it's still possible for me. I think if I devoted all the time to gi, I think I could be good there. But I was already better at no gi. Already only won majors at no gi. You know, I medaled, got second and third pans in the gi. But no gi, I won, you know, and won multiple. And so it's like I'm already better at the one that pays more and the one that's easier to be elite at. Just kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
But at black belt especially, I want to at least train a lot more gi. Like, I would like to compete again, but just it can't be my focus. But if it makes sense, I'd like to do majors in the gi, you know?
I had that feeling really strong when I got my black belt because I was like, crap, like I'm going to have to like kind of defend this thing and like make at least feel good about it to myself, that I feel like I not only earned it when I got it, but I can like continuously have like earned it kind of feeling. So now I make sure I train at least some gi throughout my training, because I went so hard, like I was saying, into the ADCC side of it that I wasn't really even training in the gi at all. And then that was through the brown belt time, and I kind of hit black belt, and I hadn't really trained in the gi in like a year. And I was like, I still feel like I deserved it, and I still taught in the gi.
You teach a lot of gi, and you teach it well too, though. So I feel like you're...
I was like in tune with it, but then when I rolled, I was not.
Yeah.
And then talking about the style differences, I had adapted my game to like the ADCC style. If you do that, it's hard if you're a listener and you aren't balls deep into the jiu-jitsu scene, but there's a different style for the IBJJF. There's a different style for ADCC. And when you do the ADCC style with the gi on, it doesn't work as well as it does in no gi.
Yeah.
So I was getting like caught, bow and arrow choked all the time. Whereas like in no gi, I was just like shaking people off my back and defending hooks and stuff. So now I try to kind of keep up with it.
Unless you're Eduardo Tellez, then you can just turtle in the gi still and end up on the other guy's back choking him. Dude, did I send you that clip yesterday or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you sending me one recently, and that's another guy. Like I mentioned Terra on here one time of like trying to like Eddie Cummings, Terra, Eduardo Tellez. Like there's these few guys that inspired me a ton, and then I think they in turn inspired like a lot of the guys in kind of our generation that had been training for longer that went on to be like very successful. And like people don't know that like so much of the Octopus 2.0 and the Octopus first time instructional from Craig Jones, it's all Eduardo Tellez stuff. Right. And I guarantee you that Craig has studied him and has known about him for a long time, and that helped him figure out those positions.
Tellez is actually one of the other guys I was considering training with during the whole Caio thing. I think he was in San Diego.
Nice.
He's a cool style. And technically I think he's somewhat affiliated with Braza too, so it kind of fit in with that. Yeah. Well,
and that we were talking about like the differences of like the major jiu-jitsu cities and like where's like the best towns. And I was saying like, you know, for no-gi, especially around the pandemic, Austin really kind of took that title. But I was telling Wico about like New York City and San Diego. And adding someone like Tellez in San Diego that I didn't even register is on that list. There is so many high-level black belts, former world champions, OGs that are all in San Diego. And not even just like gi guys too. There's like old school American leg lockers and stuff.
Yeah, and Autos nowadays is like maybe more of a no-gi gym than a gi gym, bro. I don't know their classes, but like competition wise, you know.
When they put out guys on anytime there's UFC BJJs, WNOs, CJIs, there's always Autos athletes. And so they're definitely, one of the best no-gi gyms in the world, even though like historically they're definitely a bit more of like a classic gi team where you go to Worlds and they got like people chanting in the crowd all.
Man, I wish there was a way we could get back to that jiu-jitsu where it was like everybody just competed and trained gi and no gi, but because then it wouldn't be a disadvantage if you're spending time in the gi, but now it's like there are guys that only train no gi.
And people have a lot of feelings about it too. There's like a lot of gi hate. Gi negativity for sure.
I think it's because people aren't good.
I think to your point of the complexity of
harder,
it.
Yeah,
it's harder.
Yeah.
It's more frustrating. Yeah. And like, if you know how to use it, you can just create so many more problems that have to be solved. Whereas a no-gi, you can solve the problem with increasing your deadlift or running faster or just like building more muscle. Whereas like in the gi, that isn't going to help as much. It will still help in any combat sport, but it's just the difference in no-gi is like if you get a super athletic guy, they're just hard to do stuff to. Throw a gi on that super athletic guy, now you can strangle him. Now you can sweep him.
That athletic guy learns how to use the gi, and they're a fucking monster, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you can use those no-gi skills and be elite in the gi. You just have to use your brain too. And you use your brain no-gi. I'm not saying that, but like...
you just got to use your brain.
Bro,
no, that's really how I feel.
You have to use your brain like hard. Like gi, you can't just be like, oh, I'm training. I'm trying to put pressure on him. I'm trying to be aggressive. Like, kind of. But you have to be like, oh, I mean... At a certain point, you're not actually consciously thinking it, though, right? But you're like, oh, they have this grip, I need to do this. Or, oh, I can't have my hand an inch closer because I'm giving him this sleeve grip, so I have to grab back. And, oh, if he tries to off-balance me, if I post, it gives him the grip. So maybe I just fall to my shoulder and try to bolo and come back on top without ever letting him reach my hand. It's like you have to have that thought in a second. And if you mess up, you lose the whole match off one mistake. Like, no-gi, you can make a few mistakes, even black belt level, and win a match. Like,
I can feel it using like the best example for me is like the lapel guards in gi jiu-jitsu, where I can't do that to people in no gi, where I can confuse them. And I can do certain things in the gi where like I can look at them, like look at their own lapel and be like, what do I don't understand where I need to go. Whereas like in no gi, I can't get people that confused.
I love it so much, man. That's like my favorite thing about training gi is that shit. Because I can't lapel guard no gi.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had a really cool conversation with Zach Marshall about that this morning.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how squid guard can be a good tool to train in the gi that has a good transfer back to your no gi and like some leg lock stuff. Whereas like the other side of the lapel guard, like worm guards and stuff, don't really help your no gi. So that's why right now in the morning class, we're kind of focusing on some squid guard stuff because it's a little bit more helpful for both sides of it.
So this makes me think of Barambolos because it's very different gi and no gi, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody comes up to me that only trains no gi and they're trying to get me to teach them bolos, like I'm like, do you train the gi? And they say no. I'm like, I'll try, bro. And there are people who only do no gi that have great bolos, but knowing how to bolo in a gi and using the grips to pull, it's gonna help you when you train shinogi so much. But then you see top competitors who are like elite pioneers in bolos. I'm not trying to name names, but like top guys who bolo in the gi who go do no gi competitively and they can't hit any bolos and they spam it the whole time and they never hit it because they're trying to like use the gi grips or like just not have grips. But then you see like Levi Jones Leary who thinks about it and develops different grips where you're hooking with your elbows and stuff, and then the no gi bolo works perfect, So I think it's like one of those where training in the gi helps a ton, but you have to also learn the grips for no-gi. You know what I mean? Kind of like the squid guard K thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it'll help, but you got to know the style-specific variations,
I call it training wheels.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly,
it's like there's certain things where like the training wheels can kind of help you get your feel for something, and then you take the training wheels off and like, all right, now you can kind of ride.
For real.
And, that to me kind of goes on to like, I think in the gi, you have more attitudes of being pro drilling. And I'm pro drilling, you're pro drilling. We do it a ton. And I just saw a great clip from Joseph Chen talking about it. And I think like he's just good at explaining anything. He's a good communicator. And his point was that like if you don't know how to do the move, you need to do it without resistance. And I can really feel that over the years where if there's certain moves I want to drill that I'm good at, I will coach my partner and be like, hey, I need you to resist. I need you to like, I'll even coach him through the defense, or hey, you can just full on resist and I'm going to try to hit this move. Yeah. But then I have so much stuff I'm still learning and I'm not good at that. When I do those, I'm like, hey, stop resisting. Yeah. I'm just trying to learn this right now.
You got to do that first step first.
Yeah. And I think some people that are like anti-drilling and they're just like trying to do something they don't know how to do yet. It's like, tone it down a little bit, figure it out. And then you can add the resistance later. But if you don't know how to do it, like you're wasting your time.
But learning how to drill is hard too. You know, I was probably a purple belt before I learned how to drill like correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
People just drilling with absolutely no resistance. Yeah, it's not going to do much. Like that'll get you like kind of like to where you understand the basics of the move. You're not going to forget what grip happens in a roll, but then you're going to go try it from 0 to 100% in a roll, and it's probably not going to work well. Maybe you get lucky and it does. But you drill it with no resistance, then you tell your partner, okay, give me a reaction. No, not like fight as hard as you can, but give me a reaction. Like pick a reaction. Okay, I'm going to post on this knee away. Okay, and now I got to sit here. You don't have to resist, right? Because now I got to figure out what I'm doing. If you're resisting hard, I won't figure it out, right? But you give me the reaction. I think it through, oh, if I switch my grip here, I can get under it and get to the back or whatever. Then, you know, okay, he goes out back. Boom, it's this option. Give me another reaction. Then the guy has to think, what's another reaction? Yeah. Oh, okay, maybe I stack you here. Oh, if you stack me, actually, I'm under your hips now, or whatever. You know what I mean? And so you start to figure out every reaction, and then you can start to be like, okay, just now give me more resistance, you know? And then you go start to hit it on blue belts or white belts, and then purple belts, and then you can hit it on other competitors and stuff, you know? But it's like, you have to follow that process. And sometimes I go to drill a new thing, and they're resisting, and I'm like, dude, I don't know the move. You got to let me like just figure it out. And sometimes I'm like, hey, I need you to give me some reaction. I'm not getting anything. You know?
That's where I think it's helped for me, because I've started to figure out what I'm good and bad at. Now that, like, again, with goals shifting after black belt, where I feel like I'm much more honest with myself of where I'm actually at with my certain like strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Whereas before I was like, fake it till you make it. I'm not trying to expose my weaknesses. And now it's like, no, I have no problem asking someone to go completely like no resistance for a drill, because there's stuff that I don't really do and I'm trying to add it. Whereas when I want to drill my A game, I'm like, dude, you can pretty much just roll with me and I'm going to try to drill my A game while we're rolling.
Can we play, y'all have rolled enough and spent enough time with me. Can we play strengths and weaknesses?
The thing is, you're so weak at most things.
So it's just a really big list for that side.
No. Okay. So blast double is a huge strength. Obviously, you're pretty good at like picking people up and setting them back down in a variety of ways. I think a weakness is maybe less technical, but more of just like approach, with the same thing that we've talked about episode after episode. And what we're talking about with being us as like heavy submission guys, smothering people's face, is like, you got to have, I would say like a critique is more so just trying to sub people rather than like
play.
Like, yeah, like it's not like you know how to sweep, you know how to pass guard, you know how to do submissions, you just don't try to do them. So it's like not even like a technical skill issue. It's just like an approach. Like you're just not trying to do, you're trying to just keep moving, you know,
I think gi would help you in the match. I know you train some gi, but I think like really nerding out on gi would help you a lot. Sorry, I cut you off a little bit there, but just, I think like he's like the technical bit. Like I think sometimes you're so good and you're so strong and athletic, you get away with some stuff, right? Just like I'm so flexible and whatever, I get away with some stuff, you know. And some of that stuff you use to your advantage, but also taking away some of it, gi, grips, doing the math equation. I think it would help you no gi, because I think sometimes I don't see you think through things enough no gi. You know, like you shouldn't be sitting there like thinking everything through. But you should be like, okay, I'm doing this move that I've learned before. You know what I mean? And sometimes I see you just scrapping, I think, you know, in the move. In the minute, if a move feels right, you do it. But like kind of you need to drill or train so much where you know like, oh, when X happens, I do Y, right? Like when I'm in this knee shield with my knee cut out, I have these 4 moves I do or whatever. So then you're in a roll. You don't think you get there. You just do the move, right? But there's more tools in your arsenal.
For sure.
And then the strength, I think, is kind of like the opposite of what I was saying earlier about how we don't have guys that fight the points. Like when we do comp training and you actually like cut the goofiness out and go hard, you know, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But you do well. You do that well when you do it. It's not always necessary. Sometimes we have fun, right? But whenever you're like, okay, I'm putting it on, you are hard to score on, bro. Like I see you in jack scrapping and you're like getting up, fighting. Okay, overtime now, keeping on going. And it's like, maybe if you did the same thing Jack did to you, he would have even accepted it, right? Not saying anything bad on him, but just you have that strength of like, no, I'm fighting this, and that's something I think I have. I think competitors need and something that like Caio's, like I'm saying, everybody had. I think you have that better than a lot of the guys.
Dude, I think that's the jiu-jitsu secret sauce. Is just being super stubborn.
Yeah.
Like everyone that I know that's really good at jiu-jitsu is like in certain times off the mat or outside the gym, painfully stubborn. But when you're rolling jiu-jitsu, having a ton of stubbornness is like basically only helpful. It's like you said on being stubborn about tapping a leg locks, and like take someone like William. We all could talk like all give him props on everything, but it's like I feel like a part of what makes his jiu-jitsu so good has to do with stubbornness, and that will that kind of drives behind being stubborn.
I feel like that point to like trying really hard to like not accept things and fight out of stuff. I have like a lot more motivation to do something like that versus like go for subs or like try to like dig really hard for subs and things like that, because I feel, especially in those classes specifically, that I'm not a competitor, right? But that is like the best contribution I have to the team, to like try to help other people. I'm not a good look in a lot of things, but at the very least, I can do my best to try to give somebody a hard time and like scoring, to give them a good look.
The thing is, you have to have different rules for different purposes. You can't just do like, okay, this is my philosophy on rolling, right? Okay, this is how I roll at beginner's class. This is how I roll, in beginner's class when I need to get better at a move. Even in the same class, you might have different purposes, different days, or like comp training. Okay, this is where I test my escapes because I can't really do much else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like different reasonings where sometimes I'm going for the kill and I'm only hunting subs for a day or a week or something like that. Sometimes I'm not doing subs at all, only working, escaping bad positions. Like I'm not just straight putting myself there, but I'm trying to control positionally and then working out or whatever your goal is, I think that could help you too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that with you. That's why like I can only roll with you in like certain circumstances, because like when we roll, kind of going back to like getting the most out of it. If we're gonna roll, I'm trying to give Grayson the most I can out of it, and it just turns into war. Like we don't train light. We don't go soft.
Usually roll when I'm about to compete. So you're getting me at like my I got to be a dick in the training room.
Yeah.
Like,
No, and our roles are super fun because like you were saying earlier, where like you're talking about like your contribution to jiu-jitsu and you have kind of like a unique style. We have so much of overlap in our styles, and I feel that we're like we probably a body type and flexibility thing, but we do a lot of stuff that no one else can do. And there's plenty of areas that our game deviates a lot. But
in similar ways too, it's like we have differences in our games, but they're both odd. Like we're both
exactly.
Oddness,
so it's just a lot of like what you think of as like funky jiu-jitsu, and that makes our roles just turn into absolute chaos because we're both flexible and we're both long. So like we can get into scrambles that I only get into with you because of like the way that we both train. Versus like I think that's kind of helpful for us is like our style is so much different from the rest of the gym. So we can kind of give people a look that is pretty abnormal.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's you and a few other people I train with that give that same kind of feeling, and everyone else is like more traditional.
Dude, you brought him up earlier, but Justin Rinnick, bro, training with that guy's a trip, dude. He's so, I don't know how tall he is. He feels like he's 6'5", bro. And he's not, but he feels like he's 6'5", and he just like throws this full, like, not a hook. He throws like his full, like, almost body triangle on you from passing. And you're like, what is happening, dude? It's another solid black belt there.
Yeah. So now that you have the black belt, do you feel like in any sense that there's like a mission accomplished? And then do you feel like there's like a shift in any of your goals now that you've hit that milestone?
No.
So what are your goals then?
Yeah, just be the best competitor I can be. Like I have a lot of goals in life, obviously, that are slightly different. Want to have a gym someday, want to, be better as just a person socially and discipline wise and all that. But really my goal is to be, one of the top competitors in my division. Like it's not about everyone knowing my name or anything, but like I said, the driving factor is like continuing to grow the sport. And like the reason that's important to me, right, is because whenever I do that, it makes me grow myself as a person too. Like I had that time out for a few years where I couldn't train. I was training and teaching, but I couldn't compete. I wasn't training like a competitor. And like that's just not what I wanted, And it's like and I wasn't the best version of myself when I'm doing that. You know, I'm like angry easier. I'm not accomplishing things I need to do. And then whenever I'm training and trying to be the best version of myself to compete well, that makes me do all the right stuff to grow myself like as a human too, you know? So I think with the black belt, a lot of the goals that change, like the competition stuff's been the same, but now it's more just like, okay, how do I approach things as a black belt? You know, like already, like I've thought, like, okay, in the gym, you know, I like to joke around with my students and like talk shit and be fun, and I think all that stuff's great and cool, and it's who I am. But at the same time, I think if you're a gym owner trying to own a big gym and you're acting like that, it's a bit immature, right? So I was like, okay, now I need to try to take steps to be, and I'm not even trying to open a gym right now, but just be a mature black belt. So by the time it happens, I'm ready for it.
I can relate to that 100% because, you know, I'm the same way. And like we goof off probably too much sometimes on the mat. But I remember when I got my black belt, it wasn't so much in how I changed how I was behaving, but I could tell just a slight shift that people watched me a little bit more. And then when I would do like dumb or embarrassing things, I was like, oh, I'm setting a bad example for the rest of the black belts too. Or like I'm acting childish or I'm being petty or something like that. And it's like, you know, I really don't think belts matter that too much, but we still use them and they do mean a lot to us when they happen. And I think like in the mat environment, it is important for, you know, to be good role models and stuff. And so since we're still using them, we might as well kind of like take, you know, honor it well or whatever, however you can describe it, of like just being a good example. And you are the person that in the jiu-jitsu mat environment, you're the role model. And like, I went through that when I first got the black belt the first year. I was just like, oh man, I got to stop like cussing so much. I got to stop like belittling people or whatever I might do that I realized like, oh, when I was a purple belt was just straight up good banter.
Goofy,
And then like at black belt, it's like that comes off differently. Cause then I put myself, if I was being told when I'm a teenager by a black belt, something that's kind of like snarky comment, it's like, that doesn't feel as good. And so just like it changed how I felt like people were perceiving me. And then over time I was like, okay, I gotta kind of like be more basically professional too, because it is our jobs, you know.
Well, like you're saying, like how people see you, it's not up to you. You know what I mean? Like you might be like, well, I'm a black belt, but nothing's changed. But other people, they see you as a black belt and they're a dumb white belt kid. They don't know. They look up to you. You know what I mean? And really,
dumb,
you know,
dumb white belt kid.
But I feel like in the last like 6 months or something, I've been like other people have been making me aware of that more. Like, you know, tackets aren't around as much, and you know, was about to get my black belt. Now I've gotten it. And even before, it's just like people are coming to me for coaching advice or coming to me for competition advice or, you know, asking me questions that I think is just like as a friend or as a teammate. And then I realize like, oh, they're like looking up to me and looking for advice or something like that. And I didn't even realize it's happening until like my buddies are like, hey, you realize that this is what people are seeing and what people are wanting. Oh, okay. All right. I need to make sure I'm doing the right thing. You know, it's like I try to go out to coach any tournaments for anybody that wants to do like a real, like anyone who wants to be a competitor. If you're competing in Texas, like I'm trying to go, even if it's Dallas, you know, because people, I think kind of look up to me. You know, I'm not trying to, I don't know, but I want to be there how I would have wanted.
Yeah, you want that support too. Well, I think with what you're talking about of like where people really start appreciating your opinion and they do ask almost like better questions and stuff. I think like I'm assuming you've been through what I've been through in the jiu-jitsu scene where there's like too much of that faith put into the black belt or the professor or the teacher. And it's like because this person has excellence in one small little field that got them to black belt, then it just kind of turns into like, I know everything about life and finance and all these different things. And it's like, even like strength and conditioning and physical therapy, it's like, look, I know about jujitsu. And even then I have like my subsets of jujitsu that I know a lot about. I don't even know every move and how to teach all the moves. And I've been in a lot of like seen it in gyms I've been in and seen it online and stuff of just kind of like the toxic coach who's just put themselves on like this pedestal just because they're a black belt. So I think that's like something that's evolved a lot over the last couple of years where jiu-jitsu is much more of like a sport. But I definitely remember the times where it was like too much faith to the professor.
I think it's still like that. There's too much faith. But I think that's one thing that Fight Factory is good at, because I think Rodrigo has other standards too. You know, I don't think he's just like, okay, do you deserve a black belt jiu-jitsu wise? Like, first off, he has the teaching thing, but it's because he wants you to give back to the gym and the community, you know? And then I think he has personal things too. Like if he sees you, okay, a brown belt, and you're good and you're winning, but you're not doing the things you need to be a better person, I don't think he's going to give you a belt. You know what I mean? Like, especially a black belt. I think Rodrigo factors more into it that a lot of gyms don't. And I think that's good because whether you want to or not, like you said, people look up to you. You know?
Well, and I think now with like the resources of instructionals and YouTube and things like that, I think skill wise, you could get to black belt so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like the fun martial arts side of it is like what you're talking about, where it's like you have a coach who gets to know you personally and they do care about your skills and they're going to develop those over the years. But then they're going to kind of have that character side where they're like, yeah, dude, I don't give black belts to guys that are disrespectful or just kind of rude. And I mean, I would say the most specific thing about Fight Factory is like the handshakes and the eye contact intimidated me when I started. Over the years, I got super comfortable with it. And now I'm like, no, dude, like we're going to shake hands and we're going to look each other in the eye. And I had spent so much time inside the room at Fight Factory doing that every day. I didn't realize that that wasn't as normal across all gyms.
I didn't realize that wasn't normal either.
You go to other places and you start doing that and people are like, well, is this guy a politician walking around shaking hands with everybody? Like what's going on? What's your experience with that?
I did not realize that that wasn't normal at all because Fight Factory is like, it's essentially all I know and knew for like a very long time. I'm only recently, like, I think it's only been a year since I actually started going to like other gyms, other open mats and things like that, you know? And just like culturally, it's just a little bit different. Not for better or worse, just different. And one thing that I found, just like you said, is I don't know, just walking around the room and shaking people's hands is not a norm for the other gyms that I've been at.
I don't think it's a norm, but I don't think it's ever going to be looked down on.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's good manners. And I think that's part of what you're talking about with
thinking,
Rodrigo is that it's like he instills good manners in his students.
But then there's a lot of stuff we don't do at Fight Factory that is customary at other gyms, you know? Like tying your belt or pants facing the wall. You can't face the class, right? Bowing when you bow on. Shaking black belt's hands first. You know, I just went to Six Blades the other day. Best believe when I get on the mats, I'm bowing and I'm finding every black belt on the mat and shaking their hands, right? And if the black belt's sitting on the ground, I'm not standing shaking their hand. I'm going to my knees and shaking their hand, right? Because that's traditionally what people do. I don't know if they do that there, right? But it's like go to the most extreme respect and try to do that. You know,
especially if you're a visitor,
first,
right?
Yeah. Once you know the vibe, you can play
Gauge
it in. You don't want to be a weirdo, you know, but like give any respect that you know is customary at gyms, try to do it when you're visiting someone.
What are some other ones? Because there are some of those I wasn't aware of. Yeah, so what are some other ones?
Bow before you get on the mat.
Yeah, waiting on the side of the mat till the instructor calls you on.
Which I feel like we're kind of like, we do that and we don't do that at Fight Factory.
20% of the people do it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things where you almost got to call it out and be like, oh, thanks so much for politely waiting. Because it is like sometimes people just straight up sneak into classes and it's like, bro, I didn't even know you were here. You didn't say hi. Like I just wanted to say what's up. Yeah.
At the same time too, though, I think it's like, I don't know, if that's the rule, make it the rule and enforce it. And if not, it's not. You know what I mean? Like the gyms that really do that, it's like, it's a solid rule.
Yeah.
You know, another one, if you're getting close to another group, the lower rank moves, right? You're not going to roll onto black belts and have the black belts get up and move. We don't really do that at Fight Factory, you know?
Yeah, ours is like who's scrapping the hardest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, who's more dangerous?
Who's less alpha will get up and move, you know?
I was actually coaching some of the morning guys through that, and we were talking about like belt math. And I was like, dude, it just goes to the highest one.
Yeah.
Right? And they were talking about like different colors of belts. All right, so if it's this guy, this belt and that belt versus that, it's like, dude, just look over and if you can see.
But at the same time, if I'm going with another, you know, brown or black belt, but there's like two purple belts going next to me scrapping like it's world's finals and we're kind of not given the effort we need, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move.
I do that all the time,
you know,
especially since I don't really compete. Like if I see two competitors going at it, I'll be like, hey, everybody, let's clear out, let them get their reps in, you know. And then like more traditionally, you got like the stuff that I'm so glad we don't do of like, there's a picture of some Brazilian guy up on the wall that you bow to, and then we bow to each other and things like that. Which, I mean, even gyms that we're like tight with the people that own them still do that in different ways. But like, I'm glad we don't do that because I think that further creates that same kind of aura I was talking about of like putting too much godlike belief into the professors and stuff. I think that the Kung Fu martial arts traditions are awesome, and like the old school stuff is cool. But I think that like now we've kind of evolved into the no-gi sport, and it's like, yeah, this should just be like a training environment, and you don't need to like be bowing to some old guy who's dead.
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't like bowing to pictures and stuff. I don't mind bowing in general though, and I don't mind keeping nogi a martial art. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I do think the bowing to pictures is corny. And it's like, sorry, but it's like we know kind of who the Gracies were now. You know,
yeah,
we're still bowing to these guys. Like I'm not an anti-Gracie at all, but it's just like they weren't like some philosopher, great people. They kind of stole an art and made up a bunch of lies and made it famous, you know?
Well, and I agree that like we don't want to keep all the traditions, but it's funny, like we teach kids classes together, and it's like we do so many of those old school traditional things, and I think it's like good for them. But on like the nogi side, I think that we're kind of like losing that battle on trying to keep nogi the martial art, and I think that's where we're just going to enjoy the gi side, because like you can, for me, I think I've talked about this on here, but the difference between I got into boxing first, and then I got into martial arts. And boxing's a combat sport. And I clump like boxing, wrestling. Those are combat sports. They're not martial artists. The athletes in that aren't really martial artists. And I think that nogi's kind of falling into that boxing, wrestling category more so than like the martial arts side.
I never thought about that.
And like, I think we can still make it like that, but that's just going to be up to the individual, where it's like when you train nogi, like, do you want to be a martial artist? Because like as your coach, that's going to be different. But if you just want to be a combat sports athlete, I can also coach that too. And it's just going to be a different approach.
I agree.
And a different mentality towards each one.
I think they're going to coexist. I think it's going to be probably majority people, like you're saying, just combat guys, and then like a 30% martial artists who are like guys that did actual jujitsu. You know what I mean? And then the rest of them will be guys who are just like scrappers.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you made the point earlier of like wishing we could go back to the time where like pretty much everybody did gi and no gi. I take that the step further, where to me it was like everybody does MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, gi, and no gi. And I mean like MMA, boxing, Muay Thai is just like some kind of striking as well. Yeah. And like that ship sailed a long time ago, because like the Jiu Jitsu Nerds started coming out, and then now it's like the next level of Jiu Jitsu Nerds where it's like only no-gi Jiu Jitsu.
I think too, once MMA broke into that whole like, oh, this is like a crazy like smart person sport too, not just like scrappers. I think then it made Jiu Jitsu guys less connected with it, because it's like, oh, you got to be like pretty elite MMA to be like an MMA guy like 2002-ish or whatever, you know? Whereas before that, you could just be like good at one martial art and go do decent, you know? I think, and which is, I know that's a long time ago. You're probably talking more recent than that, but I think just that kind of split into like pro MMA fighters and jiu-jitsu guys, it's like the divide got bigger and bigger, you know?
Yeah, I would say the timeline I'm talking about really is like maybe the very beginning of the 2010s, where back then people were doing like kind of everything. Like if you trained, you dabbled in a little bit of everything. And then I would say by like 2015 even, it was like, no, there's just the beginnings of, I feel like people kind of don't remember this, but like just a jiu-jitsu gym was very rare. Yeah. Where it was just training jiu-jitsu, no other striking classes or no other MMA classes or anything like that. Because previously it was like, there was kind of like fight gyms, you know, and there's wrestling classes and jiu-jitsu classes. And
like the gym my dad started at was CTC. It was like, you know, same thing.
That's the best example. And I mean, that's like the timeline I started
3 months after it shut down and Mario opened his pure jiu-jitsu gym, and that's where I started. Yeah. So it was like kind of right on the line of that. Yeah.
Well, it's I think it's about time to start wrapping it up. Do you have like your Instagram or anywhere you want people to follow you, or you know, drop your dad's gym where people can go check that out, and Fight Factory, come see us?
For sure. Yeah. My dad's gym's Insight Jiu-Jitsu in Bastrop. I think definitely the best gym in Bastrop, for sure in the gi, but they're super solid no-gi too. Lots of no-gi major athletes there. The Fight Factory Jiu-Jitsu, you know, best Jiu-Jitsu in Austin, still going with that. We got some of the best guys. And my Instagram's Grayson Henley, BJJ on Instagram. I got Twisted Rooster, my sponsor. They help
Shout out to them.
Yeah, no, they're great. Same thing with Fight Factory, sponsored me a lot this year, and Common Sense Moving Companies helped me out a lot this year too. Thankful for everyone that supported me. Thank you guys for having me on the
dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's one thing that I realized after like so many episodes. I don't thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for everyone else that's ever been on here. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for coming on today and taking the time to come hang out with us and talk. It was really cool to like get a longer time to go through more of your background. Because like I said, there was times that we were living the same life, but we didn't really like know each other. And it makes a lot more sense kind of getting the steps. Yeah, exactly. So thanks so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment down below. If you're listening on Spotify, hit any kind of notifications you can. That really helps out getting our stuff out there to more people. I'm Cold Jiu Jitsu on Instagram, so check me out there. Juice, you got anything?
No, we got our skill tree. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back with another episode soon.
Sick.
Game plan.
I only did one cloud.